Support for Science Friday comes from Lumosity. Lumosity.com's daily workouts are designed to improve memory and attention and dedicated to helping people feel sharper, think faster, and remember more. It's all at Lumosity.com.
This is Science Friday. I'm Ira Flato. When the children's book author Jean Craighead George passed away in 2012, she left a legacy of over 100 books. All of them encouraged kids to learn about and protect nature. And among them, two bona fide classics. You may remember them. Maybe you have read them to your kids or with your kids. My Side of the Mountain and Julie of the Wolves. She also left behind a homework assignment. At least that's what her kids Twig and Craig have called it. Her last book, Ice Whale, was unfinished, and it took the combined efforts of Craig and Twig to bring it to print. They join me now to talk about Ice Whale, growing up around the plants and animals in Jean's book. Craig George is a wildlife biologist and whale researcher at the Department of Wildlife Management in Barrow, Alaska. Welcome to Science Friday.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Twig George is a children's author and librarian at the Park School in Baltimore. Welcome to Science Friday.
Hi.
Twig, people know your mom's books. I'm not sure they know she was a naturalist, do they?
Yeah, she was a great naturalist. She was out all the time. She spent, years camping with my father when they were first married, when he was getting his PhD in Michigan.
He was an entomologist, right?
Yeah.
And
he was a wildlife biologist. My grandfather was an entomologist.
And so you're interested in science. It runs in the family.
Yeah, very deep.
Yeah, I understand that you grew up with a lot of animals around the house, but we're not talking about cats and dogs here, are we?
No, we had, I think we counted them on the way back from a trip one time. It was 173 wild animals in the house, not in a barn, not in cages. They were in the bookcase. They were tapping on the window when you woke up in the morning. They were sitting on your shoulder when you took a shower. It was very wild.
Wow, so you had lions and tigers and bears, oh my, in your house, but not quite those animals.
Did. We did.
Yeah, what did you have?
We had screech owls. My favorite was a screech owl that we had. Raccoons, falcons, snakes. Everything that robins, everything that lived around us. People would bring to us when they fell out of nests, when they found them, when they were in trouble, when a parent was killed on the road. When I was little, we even had some baby skunks that lived with us for a while.
Tell us about Yammer.
Oh, Yammer. Yammer was my favorite. That was a little screech owl. And Yammer, like many of the animals, they kept their habits. Like what they would normally do. Like every night, Yammer would roost on the top of my door. And so that's not so different than roosting on a tree. But then in the morning, he began to like to take warm showers. And so he would fly in and sit on my shoulder. And when that warm water came down, he'd tuck one little wing in his shoulder and he'd get totally soaking wet. And then you'd have to sort of shake him off and put him on a towel on top of the shower rod. And he'd sort of squeegee and fluff his feathers until he was ready to go, and then he could fly.
Did he get shampoo in his eyes?
No, we had to be careful. And we ended up in a couple of tight situations because guests that came to visit didn't realize that they might be, showering with an owl.
Well, not only that, but if there are animals all over the place, they left little presents behind, right?
Yeah, they do. But I don't know. They seem to me like they were easier than a lot of the domesticated animals we have now. They would pretty quickly. We would let them in and out of the house, and they pretty quickly learned to go out.
That's interesting. Good, Craig.
Without much training.
Not without much.
Yeah.
Craig, let's talk about the book Ice Whale. What inspired this last book?
Well, Mom had been coming to Barrow for a long time. She first went up in 1970, and that's when she wrote Julie of the Wolves. She was actually on a an assignment for the Reader's Digest to do a story on wolves. But then when I began work in Barrow, working on bowhead whales and doing the abundance research that we did, she camped with us on the sea ice, and as I learned about bowheads and from the native community and doing our research, she did as well. And one of the things when I was finishing up my PhD, I was working on bowhead whale age estimation, and it was pretty clear these animals were living as long as 200 years, and that's all she needed to hear, and that inspired at least part of the story here.
Wow, Twig, the knowledge that bowheads live to 200 years is sort of central to the book, right?
Yeah.
It follows a bowhead whale for 200 years of its life.
One whale for 200 years, and then two families, a Yankee whaling family and a Nupia Yupik family that sort of intersects with it over many generations because, they live so long.
And so the lives and the fates of all three are linked.
Yeah.
Throughout the book.
Yeah. Yes.
And you were
and
left. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Well, that was stepping into this book. That was part of the challenge, was to step into what she had worked on and was sort of cold and sort of having to navigate all these generations and environments and traveling, and I mean it's an epic story.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful to do. It was hard but great.
Did you have to try to channel your mom at all to figure out where this book was going to go?
Yeah, we did, and we
she
really
was with us the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plus, her parrot lives with me, and Craig came down and we were working in my dining room, and her parrot, speaking in her voice, was in the living room. So it literally challenged.
So you had a couple of hundred animals around you all this time working and saying, Mom would say this plot line would go there, so to speak.
Yep. And every once in a while the parrot would go, whew, like, this is a lot.
So were you reading this out loud to the animals in the house?
We were, we would read it to each other to sort of see how it was tracking and see how it was going, and and they would hear it, and the parrot overheard.
Our phone number is 844-724-8255, 844-SciTalk if you want to talk with Twig George and Craig George. So one really interesting different part of the book from a lot of animal books that we've come across, Craig, is that you have a whale language that your mom invented using little squiggly lines and things. You see these squiggles all through the text.
Well, that came from the work we did with doing acoustics, passive acoustics, monitoring off the sea ice at Barrow, and we'd hear these fantastic calls. I mean, they really are unbelievable. And we worked with Chris Clark and others at Cornell on this and made these just remarkable recordings. And in doing so, we'd to interpret the sound, of course, use sonograms. And again, there's Mom's sort of genius. She saw that and she goes, well, that's the whale's name, these kind of squiggly lines on the screen. So she, I didn't think it would work, but of course, this is her idea to, instead of having whale names, she had these sort of interpreted sonograms for the different whale characters in the book.
Right.
Pretty wild.
Twig, what shape was the novel in when you started working on it? How much was left to do?
Well, she had worked a couple of years on it, and Craig had, been advising her technically about the science, but it's still, it was all there, but it wasn't fleshed out, and some of the, we had to follow the characters and like figure out when they were born and which generation they were, because suddenly one would turn up in the wrong chapter with the wrong, son and daughter. So we had to build this whole structure to figure out who was born when, where they were, where they went, and it was things like that. And we changed because of Craig's knowledge, and it was great to sit there. I mean, here we were writing it, and he knew everything. And if he didn't know it, he knew who we could call.
Yeah.
And we would call them on the phone, like we would call relatives of people who lived in St. Lawrence Island, which is where the book began. We would call them and say, well, back in 1848, what would your family be doing if you wanted to travel up north? Which way would you go? And, we would get the answer. So there's an incredible, though it's a fiction book, there's an incredible amount of fact and detail in the book because of Craig's work and his time and the people in the Arctic. Mm-hmm.
Craig, did you feel that important to keep it accurate that way?
Yeah, I tried my best. We didn't want to interfere too much with Mom's story, but yeah, I tried to get the geography right, some of the language, the whale biology in particular. I wanted to make sure that was right, but of course there was, again, it was it's fiction.
Yeah.
And the whale did some things that were a little unusual.
But you're a scientist and you're still fascinated by bowheads. What fascinates you most about? What's awesome about them?
Well, there's all kinds of remarkable things about them, and for one thing, there's an entire culture built around this animal in the Arctic, stretching from Siberia to Greenland. But in studying them, they're fantastic critters. I think one of the things that struck me early, watching them navigate through ice-covered leads, was unbelievable to see an ice field completely ice-covered and then hearing blows in it. It's like, oh my goodness, they're migrating through this. And then I've actually was able to witness them breaking through ice when the lead had refrozen.
Wow.
And that leaves an impression on you.
Yeah. I'm Ira Flatow. This is Science Friday from PRI, Public Radio International. Talking with Craig George. Because they're able to hold their breath. They have to come up through the ice, right, at some point. How long can they hold their breath for? Yeah, how long can they hold their breath for? And can they actually just break this thick ice as they come up for air?
Yeah. Well, there's records of them holding their breath for over an hour.
Wow.
I think up to an hour and 20 minutes. But yeah, they have that. That's where they get their name, the bowhead, that raised rostrum, and they can actually punch through ice. The native people have witnessed them break ice up to 3 feet thick, which is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
Drive a bulldozer on that ice thickness, but I've seen them break ice up to about a foot. And again, they just snap it enough to breathe. You can hear the blow. Occasionally you see a blow, but it's just, it's like where a BB gun hit a window, let's say. And they breathe through the crack, and thousands of animals migrate through areas. It's just unbelievable.
And so they go to feeding grounds. How long can they survive without eating?
Well, that's a good question. That's one of the things I've been working on. But they migrate east from Barrow, and most spend the summer in the Canadian Arctic. They're feeding, but they invest heavily in their blubber. Let's say they have the thickest blubber of any of the large whales. And just rough calculations based on some of the energetics works we've done, we know they can probably go a couple years, and in large adults, who knows how long.
A couple of years without eating?
Well, with eating very modestly, let's say. They're set up to deal with the high variability in the Arctic, and it's been part of this very long-term life history strategy they've developed. And again, they're very slow growing. They invest very heavily in the lipids in their blubber. That's kind of their bank account, let's say.
Did either of you ever try to run away from home and live off the land like Sam did in my side of the mountain? Come on, fess up.
Craig's got
it didn't run away.
The best story.
Yeah.
He's got the best
All right,
story.
Craig,
on
tell
this
us
one.
your best story.
Well,
I've only got 2 minutes, so you got to do it fast.
Okay. Well, we decided to do the Sam Gribbley thing. So my brother Luke and I and his friend, this is suburban New York back in the 60s. We took our rifles, believe it or not, went up on the hillside there in northern Westchester to live off the land for the weekend. We also took our black lab and a bunch of dog food for her. But anyway, we got some gray squirrels and we're cooking them on a skewer over the fire and didn't get it cooked very well, so we ate the dog food and then
figured the dog would eat the squirrel.
Yeah, she did. And then we had to drop down into an apple orchard, but we got through the weekend.
Yeah, all the wilds of Scarsdale, of Yonkers.
Well, northern Westchester was actually there's some pretty nice chunks of wild land.
Well, the coyote are coming back there, so
That's
they're
right.
getting pretty well.
There you go.
Thank you two for a fascinating discussion. Thank you both for taking time to be with us today. It's a great book. It's a great read.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Craig George is a wildlife biologist at the Department of Wildlife Management in Barrow. Twig George is a children's author and librarian at the Park School in Baltimore, and they were talking about their new book by the author of My Side of the Mountain and Julie of the Wolves, Jean Craighead George, who passed away a while back. The book is called Ice Whale.